here's your host, Alex Garrett.
Well, it is, believe it or not, the final trading day, the final weekday of 2023. And my next guest, Lou Terminello, is back for his year-end Terminello's Take. And Lou, we miss you around these parts at 970, but a certain friend, he remembers you very fondly and he wants you back.
I tell you, Willis Reed, the great Willis Reed. Wow, rest in peace. Another sweetheart of a guy. Sweetheart of a guy, man. Where he worked for the Nets, Alex, for years, right? He went over to work for
that
the Nets.
That is correct. Yes, and our old pal Lou Terminello was good friends with him as well.
Oh, so. Lou, we miss Louie. We want Louie to come back. Lou Terminello, come back. Was he in Florida enjoying life? Come on.
He's still alive, by the way.
Love that part of the exchange. But yes, Lou Terminello, your name was uttered on 970 today. How about that?
Well, I'm glad that I'm remembered, and I'm glad that Joe Sibilia mentioned that I am still alive, as I guess you guys were going through some of the prominent people that had left us in 2023. And of course, you, Joe Sibilia, and Joe Piscopo, yeah, you're all good buddies of mine, and that was nice that Joe brought that up. And yes, Willis Reed was a very good friend of mine, God rest his soul, and he passed away early in 2023. He was not only my friend, he was a good mentor, and obviously as great a captain as he was when he played, that's what he was as a mentor when we worked together at the Nets, not only for me, but for a lot of people. He's just a great human being. God rest his soul. Miss him a lot.
And you know what? In the link below, you're going to find that hour-long conversation I had with you and Jim Lamparello about Willis Reed and whatnot right after his passing, as a matter of fact. So maybe I'll plug that in here in the description for people to listen back to. And by the way, to pull back the curtain, as they like to say on the morning show, maybe some people wonder, well, if you're on the air with Joe, why don't you plug the podcast? Well, Joe, Lou, you and I know I don't do that. That's not why I'm behind the board. So I kind of just mention you and not mention Terminello's Take, because that's not why we're there, right?
That is right, and you're wise. That's your job, and that's separate from what you do on the Alex Garrett podcast and Sports Network. And you're a multi-talented guy, so I think that's smart.
Now, I will say, the only exciting bowl this season has been the fact that Rutgers won. I think that's a big moment for Greg Schiano to come back. And, it's been a struggle in the Big Ten. But, hey, he got a bowl win. And, I think Rutgers felt a little nostalgia yesterday. What do you think?
Well, I think they did. And the fact that they played the University of Miami football team, obviously they were in the Big East together before Miami left for the ACC, and then the eventual breakup of the Big East football schools, and Rutgers going to the Big Ten, which was a tremendous, switch for them. That being in the Big Ten, this means so much for Rutgers, not only in football but in all their athletics. Yeah, the Rutgers win yesterday was good. They had never beaten Miami. They were 0-11 against those powerhouse Miami teams of the Big East era, two national champions. And that to beat Miami, even though it wasn't a vintage Miami team. And as we said, most bowl games mean nothing except in my opinion, the two semifinals and the championship game. The rest of them really mean nothing. But for Rutgers, that is trying to get to that next level. And those 8 years where Greg Schiano left the program, where he went to Tampa Bay as head coach and then the Ohio State as defensive coordinator, really hurt Rutgers. I mean, the fact that if there was continuity and he had never left, the Rutgers program would be so much farther along. I'm not saying that they'd be as good as Penn State or Michigan or Ohio State, but they would be closer to that, just under that level. And they probably would have beaten Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State at least once or twice in that time. Those 8 years where Schiano left really hurt Rutgers. So he basically came back and started basically almost from square one. He's an outstanding coach, in my opinion.
Oh, he really is. And I think he also got a bit railroaded in Tampa off the field. There's just a lot going on around that and his departure and whatnot. But hey, it's good to have him back home in Piscataway. I mean, Rutgers, Piscataway, Greg Schiano, and winning seem to be a hand-in-hand type of thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, and their offensive line is Big Ten quality. Their defense is good, very good. I mean, they really hung in there against Ohio State and Michigan on the road. Obviously, their quarterback situation. I mean, is this Winstead kid going to be the guy, Gavin Winstead? And I don't know. I can't believe with all the quarterbacks in the transfer portal, Schiano hasn't been able to nail one. I'm not saying somebody who's a big time difference maker, but somebody who's a difference maker. I mean, that they to me just don't have that at this time. And they have a good running game. Kyle Mahenga is, he's staying for another year, and he's definitely going to be an NFL running back. So that was a great win yesterday. And they're always good on special teams. I mean, they did it again yesterday. They blocked a punt for a touchdown.
Oh, I saw that. That was incredible. Now, the other thing about the Pinstripe Bowl is, if memory serves correctly, that's now the second Tri-State team to win down in the Pinstripe Bowl. I think they're the only two, because Syracuse won it the very first installment of the Pinstripe Bowl, and here comes Rutgers, right? So it's a little bit of bringing it back to this Tri-State, if you will.
Yeah, and obviously playing in New York, close to home, is important for Syracuse and for Rutgers. As you're trying to get that edge, any edge you can get in recruiting, that might help. Hey, I played in Yankee Stadium. No, it's not the old Yankee Stadium, the iconic Yankee Stadium. It's a new building, but it's still in New York. It still houses the most famous team in American sports. And I think that, yes, they were nothing but positives for Rutgers. Nothing but positives.
One last thing about Rutgers, because I think, is there a sort of pride, like when a Jersey kid, like a Tommy DeVito, gets to become, while he was undrafted, the starting quarterback for the Giants? But when kids from Don Bosco Prep and all these other schools get drafted, that's a big deal, and they go to the NFL. What about Rutgers? Is there that same pride? Oh my God, a New Jersey school has a kid in the NFL. That's a big deal too, isn't it?
Well, I would say so. And look at all the NFL players, even though Rutgers has never made the playoff or have never been in a Big Six bowl game. Look at all the NFL players that have come from Rutgers, and they starred. I mean, you have the McCourty brothers.
The one who will not be named, because that guy turned out to be a mess. But everybody else, have been great. Although Ray Rice's career at Rutgers is unparalleled in my view. He had quite a career down in Rutgers, didn't he?
Yeah, without question, he's as good a running back as they've ever had. And really, from what I hear, was a pretty good guy. And obviously, his career is stained by that one domestic abuse incident, and that's something that he'll never be able to shake off. But he was a great back.
While we're on the college football scene, and it's sort of like what we talked about a few weeks ago, why isn't the Northeast teams more prominent in the NCAA? Well, maybe if they get featured more in bowl games, that'll help, right?
Well, it can hurt. Like I said, obviously in the Northeast, a lot of Northeast college football teams are way behind the pro teams in those markets, like in New York, like in Philly, like in Boston. I saw yesterday Boston College beat Southern Methodist University. Ironically, they will be in the same league next year, and they were playing at Fenway Park. Yes, it was a very rainy day, but I saw the attendance was only 16,000, and Boston College is right there. They're in Boston, and the fact that you think there'd be more people just in Fenway Park to watch a game. But again, they have the Celtics, even though the Patriots have had an off year. They have the Bruins. Boston College falls behind that. Hockey in Boston at the college level. You have Northeastern. You have Boston University, a perennial powerhouse. Boston College, a perennial powerhouse. Harvard, a perennial powerhouse in hockey. So there's just a lot of things going on in the Northeast that doesn't factor in say in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or Auburn, Alabama, or Columbia, Missouri, or Columbia, South Carolina. So I think that Alex, I know we talked about that before. I think that plays a huge factor.
All right, let me ask you this, because I feel like the NCAA was trying to make the bowl season a little more colorful, a little more lively by having a Pop-Tart flip the do the coin flip, and then also the Duke's Mayo winning coach literally gets mayonnaise plastered on him. But that's not why people turn into the bowl games. They want to see talent, don't they? I don't know.
Well,
the spectacle didn't sit well with me, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, and I agree. And I would agree with you. Those stunts mean nothing. And as we said, there's 43 bowl games, which is about 30 too many, and they're all for TV. And the fact that they have these stunts is because all these players are opting out. All these star players are opting out. You have second and third quarterbacks starting. Florida State is going to play Georgia in the Orange Bowl tomorrow, and about 15 to 20 players for Florida State have opted out. Who's going to watch that? I'm not. I mean, and I think I mentioned this before in previous weeks. I'm going to focus in Monday watching the national semifinal, and then a week from Monday the championship game. But I'm not going to watch any of the other games.
Lou, it's more than that. I mean, I'm wearing my Irish because today's the Sun Bowl and the Irish play. And we record this before the game actually, but Sam Hartman not playing, he's banking on his future right now. I think that's why he's sitting, right? And it's just
that is correct. Him and about a couple of hundred others.
And I don't know, as an Irish fan, it kind of hurts because that's how they got there this year. I mean, he was a pretty damn good quarterback for them. And now I know around the Irish, the question is this also a mark on Freeman's leadership? I mean, some of these guys have entered the portal from Notre Dame just the last month or so alone after that final snap. Is that a reflection of these coaches when it happens?
No, it really isn't, Alex. It's really a reflection on where we are. And I don't blame, and I don't want to see the players opt out, but I don't want to see the players get hurt and lose thousands of dollars of a potential NFL career, maybe millions of dollars. I understand that. So it's definitely not on the coaches. Obviously, agents get into their ear. NFL scouts get into their ear. Opt out. You're going to be drafted in the top 90 players in the NFL draft. And the worst thing you want to see, any of these guys, whether it's Sam Hartman, whether it's Caleb Williams who dropped out, whether we go right down the line, is if Caleb Williams tears up his ACL or MCL, or Sam Hartman tears his shoulder, well, their draft position is going to change drastically. But even the backup quarterback for Texas has opted out of a playoff game. So
I remember that happened last year too, and you and I were discussing that. Why, even at the playoff game level, they're opting out too. Well, at least last year was a little more prominent than this year. So it's not a reflection of the coaches, but it does disappoint the fans, and
absolutely.
It might be a mark on how the NCAA has not handled the NIL correctly. I really think there's a thing with that now. When these kids feel like, oh, my future is bigger and better because of the NIL, that's great. But then it makes them realize, I guess, hey, I got to protect this body to be, my future here.
Well, I heard something this morning. I don't know if these numbers are totally accurate, but Arch Manning, who didn't start for Texas this year and just played a little bit, he's a freshman, got $2.8 million from various NIL sponsors. $2.8 million. And Brock Purdy, who might be the Super Bowl winning quarterback this year when all is said and done, is making $875,000. Something is wrong there. Now, in Arch Manning's case, his family, I think, said he can't touch that money. So Arch Manning can't, as an 18 or 19-year-old, can't have the money go to his head and buy 3 cars. But it's just pretty. It's remarkable what these college athletes are getting paid.
And it makes you think, hey, give Reggie Bush his Heisman back. I know the rules were different then, but it just.
I agree with you. I agree
just,
with you, Alex.
I think about that moment specifically. And I mean, it's totally different because of that. But then they punish the Penn State players who did nothing wrong. I don't know. That didn't sit well with me either. So there's certain instances where if we go back, don't you wish they were low reverts? That these kids would be honored for their talent and not just to make the dollars for NCAA back in the day. It just never felt balanced.
So, again, I agree with you 100%. Now, you're right. There should be no vacated games. There should, like you said, that you shouldn't deprive the players of their talent, punish them. Their talent is superior to anything else. It's just ridiculous. I mean, if you go back to the Southwest Conference, which dissolved in 1996. First, Arkansas left in 92. I mean, the money that was being paid, especially in that conference. Well, have to look at SMU, and ESPN did a great job. I'm not a big fan of all their 30 for 30s, but one of the best ones is Pony Excess, where SMU players, and they had a great team, were getting paid. Were getting paid when, again, they weren't supposed to get paid. So I'm not against NIL. I think there's got to be a cap on it. These guys should get paid for their name, image, and likeness because the school is making so much money. The conferences are making so much money. All these media deals is because of the players. And they need to get a piece of it, but it has to be under control. Alex, it's out of control.
I know, as is everything else. I mean, I didn't think we'd ever see a singular baseball team in Major League Baseball spend $1 billion+ on 2 players that may not give you the arm, may not give you the mileage on the mound that they're looking for. I am still wary about the Shohei Ohtani deal because he didn't pitch toward the end of the year. What are they expecting from him coming back from injury? I don't know. Do you? I mean, no one really knows.
Well, he's not going to pitch next year. So, and again, I think we talked about this on one of the past shows. Just look at him as a hitter. Juan Soto is right there with him as a hitter. Basically, you look at their numbers and you look at what they've accomplished. Juan Soto is right there with Shohei Ohtani. But again, I guess the Dodgers are looking at it from international revenue branding. Let's face it, the most popular team in the world now will be moving forward, even if it's just for the time that he's here before he retires, it's going to be Los Angeles Dodgers. They're Japan's team. There's no doubt about it.
Yep, and I still say we got to see how it all pans out. But now I guess the latest was that Ohtani wasn't the reasoning for Moto to come to the Dodgers. I don't believe that entirely. I think there was some influence, right?
Yes, I do. I believe there was some influence. And the other thing is, if you believe Ohtani, he went back to the Angels and said, or let's match this. Or the Angels said, we'll give you the same. But I don't know. But the Dodgers are going to be front and center more so than ever next year. And we'll see what happens. Now, I mean, let's face it, their team is very good, but nothing is for certain. The thing I don't like is how, and I guess they technically didn't do anything wrong, but I don't like the way they were able to manipulate the deal.
Yeah, the whole deferral process is getting on everybody's nerves right now. But Lou, I gotta say, this is the end of the year, and to me, New York wise, the way we anticipated it in March through even now, or through even September, nothing came true about it. I think that's a big storyline in New York, how disappointed it became. Because Scherzer and Verlander weren't even, they were great, but they weren't themselves in the first half. Then they get traded. And then, Judge gets hurt, and he was the only guy hitting at the time of his injury, and that's remained the same. What do these organizations do to make a better 24 so that not only are we not disappointed, but these guys stay healthy and these big contract guys specifically don't get hurt? There's got to be some disconnect here with these injuries this year alone.
Well, what you just said is correct. What we thought New York sports was going to be, and let's just look at the two big sports first, baseball and football. Baseball, whoever thought the Mets would win 75 games and trade a quarter of their roster at the trade deadline? Some of it was out of their control. Obviously, Judge being injured longer than anyone thought. And I know there was other Yankees injured, Rizzo, but let's face it, Judge is Judge. And that put a crimp into the Yankee season. Yes, those other injuries also contributed. Plus the fact that the Yankee lineup wasn't that great. And Juan Soto has boosted them so much, getting Juan Soto that in their lineup for 2024. Disappointment. Obviously, we talked about the Mets' disappointment with them not performing the way they did in 2022, and then ripping up the team, which I still don't like the way they did that. And I have no idea what David Stearns is thinking about moving forward, but we'll see. But so yes, that was disappointment. Obviously, in football, the biggest disappointment of all, we didn't get a chance to see Aaron Rodgers. Never mind for a full game, never mind for a full season. We didn't even see him for a full quarter, and that the Jets season ended around 8:30 on September 11th when he tore his Achilles tendon. No matter how you want to cut it, that was one of the big stories in New York sports, maybe the biggest story in New York sports from a negative or positive side in 2023. That changed everything and kept the Jets as the cursed franchise that they are. So we'll see. I mean, there's nothing in football. There's nothing is guaranteed. Rodgers can get hurt in the second quarter of a game next year in September. Who knows? You can't count on that. But that was the big story. I mean, as we go into 2024, and you say, hey, who's the next chance to be a champion from New York? I mean, it's one team stands out over anybody else. It's the New York Rangers. And, we've talked about them and about how good they are, but they're the closest.
We got to keep talking about them because every time we do, they just keep adding more wins in between these segments, Lou. It's kind of funny. It's like we hype them up, then they go out there and win. And Shesterkin looked himself the other night, and that against the Capitals, and it does feel like a changing of the guard in the Eastern Conference almost every night now. I don't know if you're sensing that as well, but I certainly am.
Oh, I think the guard has already been changed. To me, the Rangers are clearly, and I know it's a long season, and we know injuries can happen, but as we're here on December 29th, the Rangers are clearly the number one team in the East, and clearly the number one team in the East that should get into deep into the Stanley Cup playoffs, if not the Stanley Cup final. I mean, I'm not a Ranger fan, but I love their team. I mean, they can beat you any which way. They have the goaltender. The resurrection of Jonathan Quick is has been one of the key things. And like I said, we talked about last week. Trouba has a little of Scott Stevens in him. I think all that's going to play well as the season goes on. And Alex, obviously now with the football season winding down locally, obviously the playoffs we'll talk about. We'll talk more about the Rangers in depth, and the Devils and the Islanders, plus the two basketball teams, who are okay. But they're certainly not going to win the NBA championship this year. But we will focus on the hockey teams, and especially follow the Rangers as they go through the season and get closer to trying to win it
Yeah.
up.
It's going to be fun to watch. It definitely is, and I like that Adam Fox is living up to his contract. Also, there's just a lot of pieces. And hey, Lafreniere finally is stepping up to the rink here, because of course he was sort of MIA for a little while, and everyone's concerned because Laffy did play a big role in it last year and then fell off, and now he's back on again. So that's good. I think they need him. He's a spark plug, I think.
Well, if he needs, there's a lot of pressure on him. Number one guy drafted overall. So there's a lot of pressure on him coming in, big time prospect. He needs to get consistent. If he becomes a consistent point producer for them, just going to be another reason why they'll be one of the favorites to win the Stanley Cup in 2024. I mean,
Before we get to the national year in sports, because we're going to do that, I wanted to say, you talk about the negatives. Let's flip it out around and say the positives. They're both Italian Americans aside, but Volpe and DeVito, I think, were the two positive lights in New York sports this year, because Volpe winning the Gold Glove in his rookie year. How cool is that? I mean, how awesome is that,
Alex, that's very cool. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I was stunned that he won the Gold Glove in his rookie year. I really am. But obviously, he's another North Jersey boy, just like Tommy DeVito. And it's good to see local boys playing for local teams and achieving some level of accomplishment. I think moving forward, Anthony Volpe has a better chance of becoming an all-star and becoming a prominent player. Tommy DeVito has a chance to be on NFL rosters. I don't know if he's an NFL starter of moving forward. I don't think he is, but I like the kid. The kid's got moxie, and so we'll pay close attention to that. They're both products of the North Jersey Catholic School High School prep programs, which have always been good athletically. So we'll see. But Anthony Volpe, he has power. What did he hit, like 21, 22 home runs last year?
I think he had 20. In fact, I think he was the first rookie since Jeter, right? To hit 20 homers. There was some history and connection to Jeter this year.
That's right. So he's going to fill out a little bit, and he's going to get stronger. And I don't think the Yankees have to worry about their shortstop position for a while. That's for sure.
I agree with you there. Now, you look at that, and then nationally, we can go over who won the Stanley Cup, Super Bowl, and whatnot. But I think here toward the end of the year, the most telling thing to me is that people forget how good Travis Kelce was before Taylor Swift entered his life. Okay, people seem to have forgotten that Travis Kelce was a made man before Taylor ever stepped foot in the Arrowhead Stadium. Would you agree with me on that?
Well, he was a Hall of Famer before he met Taylor Swift. But the one thing meeting Taylor Swift has been a positive for Travis Kelce is a lot of non-football fans who were Taylor Swift fans who couldn't pick Travis Kelce out of a one-man crowd now know who Travis Kelce is. And let's face it, he's everywhere. He's on all these. He's a spokesperson for all these different products. So the Travis Kelce brand got a boost since he's been dating.
Isn't he Mr. Pfizer now also, or something
He's
like
Mr.
that?
Pfizer. Yes, he is. He's Mr. Pfizer.
Aaron Rodgers does not hold back. I'll tell you that much. That's great. Now, what else to you stuck in your mind? I mean, you've talked about a lot of it, but what about for you toward the end of the year here sticks out to you ending 2023 that maybe the media didn't even cover?
Well, I mean, it's been covered, but I think some of the big stories in 2023, the Pac-12 dissolving. I mean, here's a conference that's been around since 1915, 1916, and dissolving at the end of this sports season, probably right around June 1st, is almost remarkable that they're done. I grew up watching, when the bowl games did mean something. the Pac-10 against the Big Ten every January 1st in the Rose Bowl, and that game was right in the smack in the middle at 5 o'clock on New Year's Day, and that tradition, which makes sports great, that's gone forever. And the college realignment, we're not done yet. So I still think you're going to see a lot of different things in college sports the next 3, 4, 5 years. So to me, that's a big story. The sports media deals, the leagues that are getting so much money from various sports media deals is mind-boggling. And for somebody who, like myself, who was in the business, I never thought the numbers that they're throwing around would be at that level. I mean, I think the other big deal, as far as the sports story goes this year, the new rules in Major League Baseball. Some I like, some I don't like. It did speed up the game. I always thought that, and it was always in the rule book. It just wasn't enforced. Was the pitch clock? I think that helped. I don't like you only have 2 throws to first base. You could throw a third time, but you got to pick them off. They probably should make it 3 throws to first base, and then the fourth one, if you don't pick them off, it's a balk. I don't like the free runner. I never will. I think it's horrible. I don't like all these interleague games. I think that's horrible. But that's leading to what we talked about early in the year. I still think there's going to be radical realignment in the next 4 or 5 years. Now that it looks like they got the Oakland situation under control. I mean, that was another huge story nationally. The Oakland A's leaving the Bay Area, and that's going to happen obviously in the next year or 2, and going to Vegas. Danielle.
Oh, and don't forget, the speaker seat was temporarily vacated at the U.S. Capitol, but there might be some vacant space in D.C. if these other teams move to Virginia, which would be wild. I don't know if you've been following that, but the Capitals and Nationals or Capitals and Wizards, I should say, might be going over to D.C. Have you heard anything about that?
Yes. Actually, I was in D.C. The day it was announced, and that was the number one story. It was the first 15 minutes on all local newscasts, and obviously Marion Bowser, the mayor of Washington, said that it's not going to happen. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But the Capitals and the Wizards and Monumental Sports say they're going to move 6 miles from the arena is right now. It's only 6 miles, but it's outside of the Washington jurisdiction. It's going to be in Alexandria, Virginia. It's all about money, Alex. They want to go where they can make.
That's almost like the Redskins in Landover, but still being called the Commanders, right? It's sort of the same thing here. But
yeah, well, it's like the Jets and Giants still being called New York.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're talking about all these moving parts and everything. But the one good thing Manfred did, I think, is he explored the idea of banning the opener. And my goodness, if we could just see a pitcher go 7 innings, that would be great. I miss those days, Lou.
Alex, you miss those days. I miss those days. I miss those days when guys were going 10, 12 innings. Starting pitchers were going 10, 12 innings. And I remember there was a game, and I don't know if it was in 60. I think it was in 70 after the Mets won the World Series in 69. Juan Marichal lost a 1-0 game. Tommy Agee hit a home run off him, and he pitched all 14 innings. It was 13 or 14 innings. So that happened a lot in those days. I remember Tom Seaver going 12 innings at Dodger Stadium. Yeah, so 7 innings. Since Major League pitchers are averaging 5 in the third innings, 7 innings would be great. You're right.
And then the other glaring question, because we don't talk about football for a little bit till the summer or even till the draft when it comes to filling up the roster spaces. But there are holes for the Yankees and Mets coming into this 2024, and spring training is literally right around the corner, it feels like. So what still needs to get done for these teams? Because you can't just bank on a big lineup with a Judge, Stanton, and Soto if you're the Yankees, but can't close a game. And then with the Mets, you can't just have it as, 1 or 2 pitchers, and then hopefully Alonso, he'll get hot. And Lindor gets hot. these teams still have holes heading into spring training, wouldn't you say?
They do. Let's look at the Mets first. I think the Mets have a ton of holes. I mean, the Yankees at least have Garrett Cole as an anchor for their staff, and they have a better lineup, I think, with the addition of Soto. Now, are they going to hire? Are they going to sign him full time eventually? I don't know. Scott Boras is his agent. He's tough to deal with, but I think the Yankees have an idea that they got him with all the intentions of giving him a lot of money. But with Ohtani getting what he got, and like we talked about a couple of minutes ago, when you put his numbers up against Soto's numbers, Soto's right there with him. So Soto's numbers have probably gone skyrocketing for Scott Boras as he's going to look to see whoever he's going to sign with. The thing about Soto is he's only 25 years old. It's not like he's a guy who's 30. He's 25 years old, and he's a great player. A great player with a good batting eye. He's always up. The lead is on base percentage. I think it was like 412 last year. So, which I think was the same. I think Ohtani was also 412. So they're very similar, but again, you're not going to get the market value that you get with Soto. But you want to pay an extra $250 million for that. I don't know. Every team looks at this stuff differently. As far as the Mets go, right now the Mets, I don't know what their strategy is. I don't know if they're really just looking to start fresh with now that Cohen's here and he has made all the changes in baseball operations. And I don't believe he's never going to sign another big name free agent. I don't. You might hear over the weekend that he signed Cody Bellinger. I don't know. There's always that player that signs with a team that you didn't expect. But I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm a Met fan. As we sit here on December 29th, I don't know what Mets going to be 81 in that area. I mean, I'm not.
They also have to get used to a new manager too, right? I mean, that's right. The other storyline.
And I know nothing about this guy, about Mendoza. What kind of manager he's supposed to be? Is he supposed to be is he a guy like Aaron Boone, who's going to be beholden to the analytics department? I have a feeling yes. So
remember, the fact the Mets signed Mendoza means the Yankee staff is effing great, according to Brian Cashman.
That's right, yeah. Well,
so and you know what? He's still got to clean up that mess he created in that press conference, because there's just a lot of signs that were shown that day when he ranted. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was. But if Judge and Soto produce and the Yankees win games, they'll forget about Brian Cashman's ridiculous press conference. Believe me.
Well, I can't end today without saying, the love of sports for me, and I'm sure for you, it dates back to our families, right? I'm sure your family loves sports. My dad just took me to games when I was starting at 6 months old, and it's going to be weird entering a year where he's not talking to me about like a full calendar year. That's let alone these different seasons alone, like a whole calendar year now is going to be a bit of a difference. So, I carry on my love of sports that he certainly gave me over the years. How about you? Any family traditions regarding sports, or maybe that those that know Lou Terminello but don't know the family life of Lou Terminello want to share with us today?
Well, obviously, growing up, and I grew up in an urban area, so sports was important to everybody in my neighborhood, whether it be my family, whether it be my cousins, whether it be the kids in my class, and hanging out. And of course, baseball was front and center in the summertime. And yes, that brings you together. That brings your friends together. And we all, whether it was my dad, whether it was my cousin, whether it was my uncle, whether it was guys in the neighborhood, we all, whether it was a football Sunday or going to a hockey game. And you got to remember, Alex, when I was growing up, there was only 6 teams in the National Hockey League until I was 15 years old. And living in Hoboken, it was easy to jump on the PATH train and get to the Garden to watch hockey and watch Gordie Howe and John Beliveau and the great players of the '60s in the NHL, and that brought us together. Or jump on the 7 line from the Port Authority to get to Shea Stadium to watch either the Jets. In the late '60s and the '70s, you couldn't get in. There was no secondary ticket market. You couldn't get in. So what the Jets did at Shea Stadium, they would sell $5 standing room tickets that you had to stand behind the line, which would be the equivalent of the base of the home plate area of Shea Stadium. If you want to just think of the baseball configuration. And 2 or 3 times it was me, my cousin, my brother, our best friend in the neighborhood. We would buy $5 tickets, and it was first come, first serve. So if you got there early, you had to get there to get the spot. Your spot wasn't reserved. So that's how much we loved going to games, and that brought us all together. So sports brings you together, and I can go for an hour talking about different games we went to, whether it was college basketball games, going to the holiday festival, which they really don't have anymore, at the Garden.
Hey, look, the NIT tip-off used to be a big deal. I remember that years ago. So there's that too. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah. So So you have those long-time family connections. I remember the first time my father took me to Shea Stadium, to Yankee Stadium, and I do. I remember.
Well, let me close a bow on this show by asking you, real fast about the Nets family, because I know that you built a family there in 28 years, and you're still fairly close with a lot of them, and basically the whole organization. The guys who were there years ago that were alongside Willis, all were at the memorial, weren't they? Or they were at least invited. They were involved some way, right?
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. We are a very close knit bunch of friends, and it's always that phrase. Well, they were like family. Well, they really were like family, and they still are. I mean, I had lunch with a couple of who are longtime friends, and I talk to them 2-3 times a week. I had lunch with them yesterday. I'm supposed to have lunch again today, but one of the lunch attendees was sick, so we postponed it. So yeah, no, we're a tight knit group, and that's what sports does. Sports does bring you together, and that's the one thing about sports, especially when you're a young kid. You listen to a game on the radio, whether it's baseball or hockey or basketball or football, and these guys become bigger than life. These athletes become bigger than life. And remember, in those days, listening to Marv Albert, who did the Knicks and the Rangers, like I said, there was no other teams at the time. Just the Knicks and the Rangers, and the Jets and the Giants and the Mets and the Yankees. But Bob Murphy, Ralph Kiner, Lindsey Nelson, they became part of your life because baseball was an everyday game. Whether you're sitting on the stoop outside at 10 o'clock at night or during the day, just listening to Mets baseball, and the Mets and the Yankees televised a lot of games, but there was no cable. It was either on Channel 9 or Channel 11, but there was always those 25 or 30 games. Or even if you wanted to be outside because you didn't want to stay in to watch the games on TV, because we did more things outside in the old days, Alex, than we do now.
Well, I gotta say, people don't know, but I was inspired to do the show because it was literally Terminello's take around your own cubicle at the office. I mean, all we did was talk about sports all afternoon long,
So you say, Alex, you say we didn't accomplish anything at work?
We mixed it up. We mixed it all in,
Yes, we did. We did. We mixed it all in, and we got the job done. You're absolutely
But as a news station, we definitely had a strong sports department and bonded through that. And
yes,
now,
we did.
I mean, as you know, you've opened doors for me in other areas of the sports world, which I didn't really know were there until 10 years ago. So thank you for that door.
It was my pleasure. Thank you. We, like I said, we had a good group. I'm lucky. I had a good group when I was all those years with the Nets, and obviously at AM 970, and WMCA, we had a great group of guys. So that was terrific.
Well, I hope your final year's biscotti is very tasty going into 2024, and we will do this again next year, huh?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for including me on weekly basis. I love doing it. I love talking with you and love talking sports. And I'm looking forward to 2024. And we're going to start off 2024 on Monday with the national semifinals. And I think you have four iconic college football brands that are going to be playing: Texas, Washington, Alabama, Michigan. All four of them have won national championships, and it's very elite teams, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Great offensive lines.
Oh, and by the way, there's a Jersey kid today starting for Notre Dame. How about that? Steve Angeli. So see, it's all Italian.
Another Italian from New Jersey, Steve Angeli.
So there you go. No, we'll talk more about Monday night's games as we get through it. And it's gonna be very, very tough for Michigan. That's all I'm gonna say. That's how I feel about it going into Monday, and I hope they beat Alabama. But I don't know. Saban's got a well-coached team every year. So
yeah. Well, the thing is, before we go, we'll just take a second on that. The thing about Alabama that's scary. I mean, you compare the Alabama team that's going to take the field on Monday to the Alabama team that had trouble, lost to Texas, and had trouble beating South Florida. Their improvement is remarkable since that time. And Saban, as you know, is a Hall of Fame coach. And, Jalen Milroe, who I thought was just another guy at the quarterback position, is probably the most improved player of consequence since September. Their offensive line is improved. I would be afraid to play Alabama if I was Michigan. And again, we don't know what the holdover of this Harbaugh situation. And I hear Harbaugh he's going to get NFL offers. I don't know if he's going to go or not. But is that going to hang over their heads? It didn't bother them. It didn't bother them against Ohio State. They beat them. But again, gotta remember, last year they gave up 51 points in the semifinal to TCU. So I just think Alabama has more ways to beat Michigan than Michigan has ways to beat Alabama, and that's just me looking at it from afar. Texas and Washington. A lot of skilled players on each team. I like Texas. We'll see. I mean, Texas has two great defensive tackles, and they might control the game for Texas. So we'll see. We'll see.
One last question here, and it's on parity because I want to just run down who exactly won the championships before we go. KC, they won again, basically. And then you had the Nuggets for the first time ever. And you also had the Vegas Golden Knights for the first time ever. So do we see parity continuing, and teams we normally wouldn't see have more of a shot in 2024?
I think we're going to see continued parity. I mean,
and Texas Rangers, of course, in the World Series.
Right. And again, you just named, okay, so with the exception of the Chiefs, who before they won, they've gone to the Super Bowl 3 times in 4 or 5 years, winning 2 of them. I mean, they hadn't sniffed the Super Bowl for 50 years when they won in 1970. But the Texas Rangers had never won until last year. Yes, they had back-to-back American League pennants, which is a great achievement, but they lost to St. Louis and to San Francisco. Basically you have new teams, and I think that's going to continue. Even in the NBA, where that usually doesn't happen, you have to have that superstar like LeBron or Jordan or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Magic or Bird. And I know we're getting off the beaten path here as we end, but just look at teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They don't have, and the Indiana Pacers, I know they're only a couple games over 500, might be the next one of those teams. Maybe even the Knicks might be the next one of those teams. You might see a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves or the Oklahoma City Thunder be that next team that has never won, like it took the Denver Nuggets, 56 years to win. So they're very good teams. They just may not have the LeBron superstar or the John Morant superstar. But again, John Morant has his own problems, and he screwed it. As we talked about last week, screwed his team with his suspension. But that's a whole other story. But I'm just saying, look at some of these there's other teams that we wouldn't consider that have a chance to win championships. And I think we're going to continue with what you saw this year, like Vegas in hockey, and the Nuggets in basketball, and the Texas Rangers, who spent a lot of money.
And the Diamondbacks got back to the World Series.
That's
they
right.
were not supposed to be there either.
Right.
So,
Right.
it's an upside down kind of world, and I kind of like that. But also,
right. I think most fans like that. And let's face it, yes, it was the Texas Ranger, a nice story. Bochy, a nice story. He went to his 5th World Series. He won his 4th World Series. But the Texas Rangers had the 4th highest payroll in Major League Baseball. So they juggled some guys from their system, but with signing Marcus Semien and Seager, people like that. So they had the 4th highest payroll. But yes, I think you're going to continue to see some new teams in the next half decade at least.
Well, Lou, we'll be following it together through it all on the Terminello's Take in 2024. And thanks for an amazing year and another great year of friendship, and year 11 of knowing each other this upcoming year. How about that?
Yeah, that is unbelievable. Time does fly. There's no truer cliche than time flies.
All right. Well, you enjoyed this week 17 of an 18-week NFL season and the College Bowl world, and we'll get back at it next week in the new year.
I look forward to it. And Alex, thank you for everything.
Thank you. So that's been another Terminello's Take to end the 2023 calendar year of this Sports Spotlight.